Welcome to Talkin' Waukesha, the podcast where every conversation springs to life.
I'm Andrew Nafke.
And I'm Anthony Terrell.
And we're your hosts for today's journey into the heart of Waukesha.
Whether you're a local or just passing through, join us as we explore the stories, people, and hidden gems that make Waukesha truly special.
From community events to personal anecdotes, we're here to bring you the pulse of our vibrant town.
So grab your favorite beverage, sit back, and let's dive into another episode of Talkin' Waukesha,
where every conversation springs to life. All right, welcome back to another episode of Talkin' Waukesha. Today we're joined by John Schoenknecht, who's a local historian, and I believe you volunteer with the museum as well?
Yes. Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what sparked your interest in Waukesha's history?
I now people know me as a historian or a guest, but I actually came to Waukesha because I was a teacher. Mm-hmm. I interviewed for a job at Butler Middle School when North High School opened in 1974. Mm-hmm. So I came in to interview, and like a good student, I read a little bit about Waukesha. They used to have information about the city in the phone book, mm-hmm. so that I read about the city. And when I came in for the interview, I asked our school secretary, I see there's the Spring City. Are there any of the springs around? And she grew up here and she didn't know the answer. Oh. So that kind of made me think, well, what happened to those springs? And then my mom had sent me I had my own apartment, and my mom sent me a picture of some antiques, and someone had taken old bottles, filled them with colored water, and put them in a window. And I thought, oh, that looked really cool. I wonder if there's any bottles that say Waukesha on them. Mm-hmm. And that's how it got started.
And it just kept
that was the first
step. So recently, as part of the 130th anniversary celebration, the Waukesha County Museum and Historical Society previewed its new Spring City exhibit, which should be opening in the near future. So let's I know we hear the name Spring City a lot. So why is Waukesha often called Spring City or Saratoga of the West?
That's because they decided to name themselves that, or give it a moniker, mm-hmm. so to speak. So because there were so many springs here, the village board and springs and hotels in the city decided to advertise themselves as mm-hmm. the Spring City. And also the Saratoga of the West comes because Saratoga, New York is the site of a lot of similar springs, mm-hmm. An earlier similar type of city with racetracks and betting and all that stuff. So as the springs developed here, the name Saratoga of the West kind of stuck.
And at that point, it was probably probably one of the more further western states at that point.
Exactly, of West, yes.
It was probably like Louisiana Territory and the Minnesota Territory.
The Mississippi River was kind of the border, so yeah.
How did the Springs era impact Waukesha?
That's a lot.
It is a hefty question. I know there's a lot of history that goes behind it.
Right. Well, in some ways, it gave the city its identity, mm-hmm. very much so. Previous to that, it had been known as a center of politics because mm-hmm. we had two governors that came from Waukesha before all this happened. It was also home to abolitionist movement, and so there was a lot of that activity. But when this Spring City happened, when Colonel Dunbar came here and drank some water and thought he was cured of his diabetes, that kind of started to give the city its identity. Mm-hmm. And it was fought a little bit at first. The other, as soon as they saw people coming to visit Dunbar Spring and he became a little more wealthy, other people found mineral springs on their property, mm-hmm. obviously. So it also gave the opportunity for a lot of development. So there were really large hotels here that were open just for the summer season. Mm-hmm. And all those hotels needed people to clean the rooms. Mm-hmm. There were golf courses, so they needed attendants on the golf courses. And so it gave a lot of the local people, employment for the summer season.
So was Waukesha more of a resort town kind of before, and where people would just kind of, go to travel out of the Milwaukee and out of the bigger cities in the area, maybe out of Chicago as well? And
right. Well, actually nationwide. Mm-hmm. So it didn't start that way. So if I wrote a book about the Springs era, so in the beginning, it was people would come here to drink water, hoping for a cure mm-hmm. from diseases. And then as more and more people came, we needed more places for them to stay. And that, so that led to people were here, they needed things to do. So that's when it started to become more of a resort destination.
Sure.
There were concerts in the parks, fireworks in the parks, the spring parks, and other types of things like that for people to do.
Sure.
Yep.
And I know you kind of just briefly talked about the story of Colonel Dunbar. Can you share that story? Because I think a lot of people might not know that full origin of how that all happened.
Sure. All right. He married a woman from Waukesha, and I'm not sure how they met, but she had a store in Whitewater, and he was doing a railroad survey, I think, in Whitewater. So we think that's how they met. They were married. Each of them had been divorced previously, but he was told by his doctor when he was living in New York that he had diabetes and it was incurable, and that he should get his affairs in order. So he was doing that. He was down in Notre Dame. He sent his 2 stepchildren, his wife's children, to Notre Dame University, and he was there. His daughter had died, and so he was arranging for a tombstone for her. And then he got a telegram that said, "Colonel Dunbar, come quick, mother has died." So his mother-in-law,
Oh no.
Catherine's mother, died suddenly. So he came up to be with her and arrange, be with his family during that time. His sister-in-law, his wife Catherine's sister, Elizabeth Carney, the richest woman in town, eventually, she had just purchased a new horse pasture.
Okay.
And so they went out to visit that. And at that time, Dunbar said he felt sick, ill from the diabetes. He was really thirsty. And she said, well, there's a spring over there. Why don't you drink some of that water? Which he did. He drank 6 glasses of water and said he felt a refreshment, like I can't remember the name, a refreshing feeling. He rested under a nearby oak tree, and then he drank 6 more glasses from the spring.
It's a lot of water.
That might be why. And he returned the next day and did the same thing because he felt so good. And then he eventually returned to New York, where he kept living. So he felt that that the spring water had cured him. And I think he then suffered a relapse. I should take that back. He suffered a relapse and came back, drank the water again. And that's when he arranged to buy the spring from his sister-in-law and started advertising it as Dunbar's Wonderful Discovery, Bethesda Spring.
And that's where Bethesda Park is today, correct?
Right. The spring is still there in the spring house that's in the
And
park.
that's the brick building that's there.
Cement brick building. Right.
So
That's the story. Yeah.
The cure to diabetes is hydration.
It does help. I mean, having diabetes, if you ever get a little too high, a lot of water does help quite a bit.
Yeah, there's just debate as well. Was it true or was he just imagining it? And you just don't know. But he lived another 10 years.
Yeah.
So.
And so he's a colonel. Was that a Revolutionary War, Civil War colonel? Or?
It was an honorary title.
Okay.
It was given to him by Governor Randall. Alexander Randall was one of those politicians and governors of Randall. In fact, Camp Randall, that's named after him.
Okay.
He was from Waukesha, the governor just before the Civil War. And he went to Washington, D.C. and eventually became the postmaster. And Dunbar was there at the same time. And that's how, I guess, he was given the honorary title of colonel by Governor Randall.
Interesting.
It's got a good ring to it, Colonel
Colonel
Dunbar.
Yeah. Mr. Dunbar doesn't have as much of an effect as Colonel Dunbar.
So what remnants of the Springs era can people still see and visit today?
Oh, okay. Well, the city oversees 4 landmark spring sites. There's a few more, but the ones that are probably easily available are Silurian in Waukesha Springs Park, or Silurian Park behind the post office and YMCA. Hobo Spring in Frame Park. Acme Spring, which is on the hillside by the Mountain Village Apartments, or is that? I better stop.
I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, it's on the hillside on Mountain Avenue, and there is a public access where you can see that spring. And then Meniska Spring, which is it's on the west side of the city.
Okay.
Those are available for the public to see. There's also Rest Haven, which is New Tribes big hotel. That was associated with the Springs very much.
It's Ethnos 360.
Yes, Ethnos 360 now. And then there's remnants of Foxhead Brewery that use spring water, and Weber Brewery, which also use spring water. So there's a few more sites of springs that are on private property.
Okay.
So those are the other ones I mentioned are the main ones that people can go see now.
Okay.
So there's a few things.
Yeah, quite a few.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's also a map of like where you can see where they were.
Yes.
And there's a Clio walking tour.
Yes.
Although it would be quite a daunting tour to actually walk around. I'd probably recommend, planning those out in chunks.
And then I did write a book about the springs, and I have a map in there that shows the location of where they all were.
Okay, nice.
Waukesha is celebrating the 130th anniversary of its founding as a city this year, but its history goes back way before that, when the first European American settlers first settled here in 1834. With so many years of history, what are some of your favorite historical anecdotes about Waukesha?
That question made me think for a while because there's a lot. But
I say, I'm like, pick your favorite child, basically. I imagine there's tons of stories and tons of history in the town.
Right. I liked the things related to people pretty much. And Morris Cutler, who was the person that came here and is credited with the first white settler that in Waukesha, his story is kind of interesting because he built a shanty, then he left and came back. And at one point, I saw an article that described him as he was tough as a boiled owl. And
that's a tough context.
Yeah. So in years later, his home was in Cutler Park, what is today's Cutler Park, and he would be there and he collected curiosities, odd-shaped rocks, boulders, skulls, animal skulls, and he had them lining the pathway into his house in the park. He would tell stories about that he knew the Indians that were buried in the Indian mounds, which wasn't true. But at one point he was married, and then you see him be cleaned up, like his wife must have made him kind of get with it, and he had a new suit, and see him in pictures in a hat and things like that. So he was quite an interesting character.
I feel like I read somewhere that like he was able to speak like 3 or 4 of the local tribal languages almost fluently, but that was just part of the like being a settler and trader is you just kind of pick up on the languages, which helped a ton.
Yeah, very much so. Another favorite anecdote is the Hygeia Spring War, the Great Big War, where the Hygeia Spring was a local spring, and entrepreneurs from the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago in 1893 wanted to bring our water to the World's Fair, and so they came to the city and asked for permission. It's a long story that could take forever, but that whole incident, which lasted several years, is really interesting. Especially when I first started reading about it, I read the local papers, and you read how these thugs came in from Chicago and and then once the internet came about, I was able to start reading the Chicago papers. And then you hear about the local Waukesha people who were drunk and thugs and beating up the Chicago people.
Of course.
So you get both viewpoints. So it's really interesting to things like that.
And with that one, they wanted a physical pipeline to go down to the World's Fair too.
They did build one.
Yeah.
It was it ended up being 94 miles or 92 miles. It didn't come to Waukesha because the people defended their Hygeia Spring, and they wouldn't let the workmen come in and dig up the streets to put the pipes in. And that's where the developers tried several different ways to get the water to a pipeline, and they ended up by buying a spring in Big Bend, south of Waukesha, and they piped the water from there. So that again is interesting. Reading about how they made the pipeline, how they put it in, and we have a piece of it at the museum.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so it was dug up.
And you'd think with the number of bottling factories that were kind of popping up at the springs, like it'd just be simple of like, hey, can we get, a boxcar load of bottles of spring water down there? But maybe not enough.
No, what their plan, okay, they had two parts to their plan. First was to supply at the World's Fair, which they did. So there were booths for Hygeia water all around the fair. And that was piped to a main plant on the fairgrounds and then out to the various booths, and you paid a penny a glass. So I have one of those glasses too. We gave it to the museum. And so, but they even invented an automatic dispensing machine. So you put your penny in, pulled a lever, and it dispensed the water. But it apparently didn't taste very well. So
you say, imagine 90 miles
exactly, through a tar-lined thing. And then it went under the steam generating plant at the World's Fair, and it got hot, so they had to reroute all the pipes. And then, but their other plan was to set up stations around the city of Chicago where you could buy the Hygeia water. So it wasn't just the World's Fair.
So they're hoping to expand it and
exactly
make it a bigger thing. Interesting.
And they lost their search. They invested $1.2 million in 1892, and they never came.
No, that's a steep investment.
Yeah. Okay, should we keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. I think then another interesting story is about how in the 1920s or so, the city fathers, the village fathers, and then the city fathers realized that the springs industry was starting to die down, and that they made a conscious effort to attract industry to the city. And at first, one of the high points or one of the gathering points would be that we have pure spring water. So some of the early plants like Jiffy Gel and the Thompson's malted milk, you advertised on the fact that the water was available.
Was that Thompson malted milk? Did that become Borden's at some point?
Yes, it eventually became Borden's, and they made malted milk, and that also led into the dairy industry, which kind of followed the springs industry. So I thought it was interesting, though, that the city recognized it and they recruited businesses to come here.
It makes a lot of sense too. Like, I mean, even with a few of the breweries as well, of like we have pure water that's available in, seemingly unlimited supply, basically.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So, and then the of all those industries, my favorite one is the Jiffy Gel story. So, but do you want me to go?
Yeah, go into it. Yeah, I think I know a little bit about it, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the Jiffy Gel is kind of interesting because the building is still there and still being used by Aries Industries, I believe. So it was built. Oh, I don't know the date. It was built though in the Jiffy Gel started not in Waukesha, surprisingly. We have a member of our museum board, Adam Trudeau, who has a keen interest in it because he works in the Aries building. So he's been writing some articles about the origins of Jiffy Gel. It started in Kansas City, I believe. And then the guys that developed it here bought out the rights and brought the industry here. So they made a Jell-O product. So, and the difference between the Jiffy Gel and Jell-O was, in Jell-O, the powder and flavoring are all mixed together, and then you add boiling water to it and let it cool. With Jiffy Gel, the gelatin powder was separate. So the gelatin powder and sugar were mixed together, and then you added a flavor vial to that once it's boiled. So they would melt the gelatin, then you add the flavoring, which was supposed to make the flavor more pure and more intense.
Okay.
Kind of makes sense. Yeah, it's not going to evaporate away or anything
right,
like that.
It's not boiled away when you do that. So they were very successful. They started this huge advertising campaign in national magazines. So you can still find like Ladies' Home Journal from 1917, a full-page ad for the Jiffy Gel company. And every time they introduced a new flavor, they would put these ads in. And then they started using the local industries to produce Jell-O molds with the Jiffy Gel name on it. And they branched out into Jiffy Pie, Jiffy Ice Cream, I think. And they're a lot of different products. But what happened to them was that during Prohibition, well, they had a sugar shortage during World War I, so that kind of, we're writing about that right now. Jiffy Jell wasn't considered an essential food, so they were limited to the amount of sugar they could use. And apparently they didn't tell the truth to the state about how much sugar they had in storage and got in trouble.
Oops.
Yeah. But they straightened that all out and they kept producing the product. But then when Prohibition came along, in the little glass vials that they used the flavoring in, they used alcohol to preserve it. And then alcohol wasn't available during that time. And they tried some different formulas. And I guess the urban legend was that they used this formula and the packages started to explode on the grocer's shelves. I'm not sure if they exploded or they went bad, but they had to rethink their formula.
Sure. I'd heard something in the past like, oh yeah, they exploded, but I think it also grew out like, oh yeah, it was an explosive as well. And it's like, no, that's not quite how that would work.
And I think I have a feeling that Adam's going to find the true answer to that as he continues writing his story. So it's just kind of fascinating that it was only there for a short time, but it brought hundreds and thousands of dollars in business to Waukesha, and it employed a lot of people. Supposedly it was the home of the coffee break. Most of the workers in the factory were local women, and they stayed at their stations filling the bottles, filling the boxes, and putting everything together. And they were standing for a long time. And we have a photo that shows other women bringing around a cart with coffee and snacks and things for them so they could take a break while they were working. Later on, it was claimed that was the first coffee break, but we're not sure if that's true.
I like the claim.
I think that's kind of cool.
Pretty cool.
So Jiffy Jell and Jell-O were around at the same time. So like, I know another rumor I've heard is Jiffy Jell became Jell-O, but
no, they were separate products. But Otis Glidden is claimed to it was involved with Jell-O, and he was also involved with Jiffy Jell, the Glidden brothers. So there's a connection there.
And that's different than the Glidden Paint Company, I imagine.
Right. But then Jiffy Jell, the Gliddens stayed in town, and they developed all kinds of other businesses. And there was another Jell-O company into the 30s and 40s. I think it was Sure Jell and Sun. I have to think of the names, but they continued developing Jell-O products here, and they used a building that was near Carroll College.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think I heard too with the Jiffy Jell building, if you see it, and if anyone that goes out past it, you see there's a big center tower. I always thought it was like, oh, did the executives have offices up there, or was it a lookout tower, or for just to look over the city or whatnot? But no, supposedly that's where they held water.
Correct.
So if there was ever a fire, it could just drench the entire building, basically.
Yeah, there was a sprinkler system. It was an early fire preventative or fire system. So.
Yeah, you don't want fine particulates in fire because that just causes conflagrations.
Yeah.
Luckily, they've never had to use it.
No,
Good.
And I don't think the tank is still there, but I'm not sure.
I don't think so because I think they've been doing some renovations of the building lately. But if I recall right, and I'm not positive, I think Aries has been participating in Waukesha Unlocked the last couple of years, and that's one of their joys to tell everyone about is the Jiffy Jell factory.
Right, it's one of the best and most popular stops on the Waukesha Unlocked tour.
So are there any lesser known facts about Waukesha that you wish more people knew about?
I looked at it more like not lesser facts, but I think areas where we could do more research are like more into the Native American culture that was here before the Cutlers came. And I think that's not real clear. And I know the tribes in the nations in Milwaukee are related, and they've done a good job. But I think not really sure about all that early history.
Right. Yeah. I think there's talk of there's up to a dozen different tribes that were in the area at this time. And especially, I mean, there's an online book I had found that was talking about Waukesha County in the 1880s, I believe. And it was talking about different stories that were going on in the county. And one of them was there was basically no one knew if the native tribes were welcoming or if they were, warlike. And there was one tale where they said they literally burned down the bridges in Waukesha because they had heard a tale that there was an advancing tribe coming from the Minnesota territories at that point, and they didn't want the city to fall to them, basically.
That's like partially true, and by the time the white settlers came here, the Indians had already ceded the land, so they weren't here, but many of them stayed and would come back every summer because they were used to this area. They hunted here, and so there is a book called The 1880 History of Waukesha County, and there's a lot of recollections and reminiscences of the Native Americans and how they were here. The incident you're talking about was called, I think, the Great Indian Scare of 1864.
Something like that. Yeah, that sounds about right.
And there's some basis and truth in that there were some, I think it began in Minnesota with some conflicts, but then rumors spread and they never came here.
There's anyone around to just make them look a little foolish.
Right. And I don't think they ever burned the bridges to keep them away.
I would hope not.
No.
Because I think that was one of the things too, is like, at the time the rivers were only knee deep at that point, and they hadn't quite, gotten the depth that they had gotten, that they're at right now.
Yeah. So.
Do you have a favorite figure in history from Waukesha?
Well, obviously Les Paul. Yeah. And, there's quite a nice display on his early life here in Waukesha. I also was going to use talk about Richard Dunbar, but we've kind of done that already a little bit more. Those were the two that I think are my favorites.
And with Les Paul, I went to Carroll and I didn't realize how big Les Paul was. I recognized the name from the guitar brand of having the Les Paul guitar, but then going through the exhibit at the museum, seeing the early history of how he was making his guitars, how he was using tinkering basically to make all these things, and then listening to on Spotify or YouTube Music, they have an album with Les Paul and Mary Ford. And just hearing them sing, it's phenomenal. Just hearing his guitar, its unique sound and everything about it. It's very eye-opening, honestly, for how talented of a man he was.
Yeah. Right. And I'm probably the last person that should speak, because there's people at the museum and local people such as Sue Baker who know a lot more about his story and his early life here and his accomplishments. I think one of the people say, well, he never came back to Waukesha, but that's really not true, because he did quite often to visit his mother, or he invested in the Club 400 with his father and brother. So he was here, I think, more than people like to claim he was. He might not have done concerts or played, but he was here. Also, on the opposite of that, I think if you listen to people, he played everywhere in the county, because everyone you talk to, my father said Les Paul played at this bar, or my father said Les Paul used to play here. And that's another one of those legends you kind of have to dig into to find proof for.
Yeah. You say it kind of makes sense if you're trying to, make a name for yourself, you're going to play where you can. But
I find it fascinating because you see celebrities nowadays, they're from all over, and you never think, there's not anyone of that level that's coming from Waukesha. But then, you have Les Paul, and he really was. Yes. He was making it, doing it.
And I like the fact that you listen to his albums, because you realize how he did that. He invented that sound on sound.
Yeah, the multi-track.
Right. And I'm pretty sure he told Sue Baker he was more proud of the fact that of his inventions than his music. He wasn't not proud of his music, but he also is in the Inventors Hall of Fame for all his inventions that had to do with the guitar and had to do with recording. So quite a guy. I met him actually.
That's all right. I'm envious of that.
He was here. He was getting an award. He was here 2 times, and once he was here. He stopped here before he was getting an award in Madison, and I think that was the time, or it might have been another time that he was here. But when they started to do the Les Paul. First talk about a Les Paul display, he came here and he suggested that we make imprints of his hands to put in plaster so people could come and put their hands in those hands. So I kind of watched and took some pictures as they were doing that at the museum at the time.
That's cool.
That was really neat. His one hand was so arthritic. The guy that was doing the plaster had to help him straighten out his hand and put it in there. But when he was leaving, he was just walking down the stairs, and I thought, so I said, "Do you want some help?" So I got to walk him down the stairs out to his car and talk to him just a little bit. But he was that kind of person that they have they say. I mean, he just exuded personality,
oozing charisma, and
and you felt like you knew him.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
Cool.
Does the museum still have the imprints of his hands?
Yeah. Oh, they're on display.
Okay.
Definitely. And he signed the wall that was going to be part of it. So we still have that in storage, but he signed on it. He signed a piece of the wall.
Okay, cool.
That's awesome.
Really cool.
Yeah.
So are there any myths or misconceptions about Waukesha that you've heard about and want to maybe clear up?
I think we've cleared up a couple.
We've cleared up a couple, but in case there's any other bigger ones, maybe.
There's the one is two of them, and they both have to do with. They start with abolition, the abolitionist movement, and tunnels. For some reason, people have a fascination with tunnels in Waukesha, and I don't think there were any tunnels in Waukesha that had to do with the abolitionist movement. There's only 3 documented cases of slaves coming through Waukesha or coming to Waukesha. There most likely were more, but there's only a few that were written down, and they're told in the 1880 history of Waukesha County. There's no mention that anybody stayed in a tunnel or that there was a tunnel for them to escape. So I think Waukesha may have been a stop or important to the Underground Railroad, but I don't think there were runaway slaves coming through here every night escaping. And that I don't know how to do more research in that. But
and it's a tricky one because obviously if you've got a runaway slave that are not documenting themselves all that well until they get to either the north or if they're at this point. I mean, one of the stories I had heard is the abolitionist had a carriage and was taking them up to Canada and just basically was unable to get there through the traditional route of coming up through Waukesha and had to go back through Detroit.
Right, that would make sense, right. Yeah, I just don't think Waukesha is so far away from the main route that I don't know why they would necessarily come here, except that the Congregationalist Church, they called Waukesha that abolition hole instead of something else. So that they were very strong here. And the cases that are documented are very well documented of who they helped and where they went and how they helped them. You would just think that after the whole thing was over, that more people would have said, "Oh yeah, we helped so and so," but that just doesn't seem to exist.
Yeah.
It's just those ones that were reported. So that whole thing with tunnels, and then tunnels in general. One gentleman I was talking to once insisted that when he was in grade school, he was at the Chandler House, which is over near Carroll College, and he was told that there were tunnels from there that went down to downtown Waukesha. And I just said, well, no, that's not true. And he was really angry. And he said, no, that. And, so people have this, I don't know, romance or idea about
I feel like it's like kind of the prohibition style, like the things this is the, the bathtub gin tunnels and like rushing into downtown and things like that.
And that also, right. I wrote a little booklet for the museum about tunnels in Waukesha. And if you go through the newspapers and you search for tunnel, it comes up. There's a tunnel built in New York. There aren't many references in Waukesha papers about tunnels. The one exception is that there were steam tunnels that went from the Wisconsin Electric and Gas Company plant on Barstow Street across the river, and they fed steam into the downtown to heat the buildings. So there were steam tunnels that you could go into. So those
I feel like those may have been even found when they were doing the latest downtown construction. There was some steam tunnel left over remnants, and then there was also things that looked like tunnels but were actually coal chutes to go into the buildings. At the
exactly. Time. So most of the stories have a more logical explanation.
Sure.
It's less fun though.
Right. Oh, yeah. Oh, and then again, there was another one. Sorry. A local guy named Dave Mickler told me he worked at the Jumpers, the Fountain Spring House, and he worked on the grounds there. And he said there was a tunnel, and you went under there, and then they stored food at the end of this tunnel, and he was in it. So, and he was very insistent, and I said I've just never heard of that. Well, years later, I was found a photo album at the museum, and it showed a picture of an entrance into what was one of the springs, Fountain Spring. So that's what Dave was seeing. It wasn't the tunnel, but they had covered up Fountain Spring, and they built like over it, and they had a doorway you could go down and then go into that where the spring was, and they were storing things down there because the spring was there. It was cold.
Storage area. Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess it depends on what you call it.
Yeah.
But I
is
felt,
A hallway.
Yeah.
I felt better that he was right. I mean,
Yeah.
So that was cool.
I like that. So in a 2002 book published called Spring Cities Past, which I believe you wrote,
I didn't write.
or helped provide the content for.
Right,
Yes.
edited,
It contained dozens of photos and illustrations from your collection. So how expansive of an archival collection do you personally have about Waukesha's history?
I used to have a lot more. So once I retired, I decided it was time to start sharing things. So I used to have, I think I had 8 file cabinets filled with photos,
Wow.
booklets, documents, receipts, things like that. And so that's all at the museum now. I had 600 some bottles of different Waukesha spring water, soda water, and beers, and those are all at the museum now. So most of what I have is at the museum now. It was pretty extensive, although there's other collectors that I know that have just as much or more. So, and there's always this battle between some people think they didn't want to give it to the museum or have it there because they thought it's never seen. Oh, it's going to be in the storage room and never seen, which is partially true, but at least you know where it is.
Right. It's in an archive safe, and of course people will handle it properly.
Exactly. And if someone wants to see it, there's ways to see it.
Yeah. They don't have to come into your home to
Right.
see it.
Yeah.
Are you home next Tuesday at noon? I want to see these photos.
So, I spent years collecting things. I started right like in 1974, 75 when I first moved here, and little bit. I'd set aside a little bit of my paycheck every month, and that would be the money to spend on things. And that was before eBay and the internet and all that. So we go to bottle shows, flea markets, collectors clubs.
Yeah, just seeing what people are trying to get rid of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have a favorite artifact, photo, or illustration in your collection?
There's a couple. My favorite artifact or object was the fox head that was on top of the Foxhead Brewery, the spring house in front of the Foxhead Brewery. And that I just donated to the museum to be part of the new Springs exhibit.
Yeah.
Is that the one that's in the lobby currently?
Yes.
Yep,
Okay.
it's right there when you come in.
Yeah, it's pretty...
It's pretty remarkable, honestly.
Do you want me to tell you the history?
Yeah,
or
that'd be
what
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what we know. So I bought it from a guy named Bill Fuchs, who was another collector. So I should say that. There's a whole bunch of people that are interested in collecting Waukesha history and learning about Waukesha history, and he was one of the old timers when I met him in the 70s. The spring house stood in front of the brewery. It was in the shape of a big bottle, and it was on top of the bottle. This fox head was placed. It had a banner in its mouth that said Imperial Spring, and then there were doors in the bottle you could open up and go down into the spring itself.
Oh, wow.
That stood there until the brewery closed in 1962. And then I believe the building was demolished about 1967. So sometime in there, the spring house was taken down. And we don't know who got what happened to it. It just kind of disappeared. Bill told me that he bought it from somebody that found it in a big outdoor trash, like weekly trash. They were throwing it away, and that someone got it and then sold it to Bill, and then Bill sold it to me. So it's hand-tooled zinc. It's from 1892. So every little fur mark on there is made by an artist, pounded out of zinc.
Wow.
When he found it, there were bullet holes in it. It was sort of misshapen. The mouth part was broken. So one of his jobs was welding. So he was able to make a frame for it to solidify it. And then he rebuilt the mouth area with the parts that were there, repaired the bullet holes, and then he painted it. And then that's another whole story. I asked him, well, what color was it? And he said, you name it. Some people, when he got it, there was no paint on it. And we've got some pictures at the museum of what it looked like early on when it was found. And so it was either silver, or at one point it was brown, and then orange. Those were the three most popular.
It makes sense. Yeah, if the brown fades in the sun after a while, then too.
I think at one point they made the part of the bottle. They made it look like part of the bottle, and the bottle was brown. The springhouse was painted brown, and it might have been painted brown, but so he painted it orange.
And then I feel like I've heard there was like a name for the actual fox head itself.
Oh, one of our volunteers, Judy, posted on Facebook that she thinks it needs a name. Well, in 1949, the company named their mascot Headley, and they printed buttons that said Headley for president. So they were running. I think I should have said 1948. They were having Headley for president, and you can find the little buttons every once in a while. So that could be his name, but we were thinking maybe he deserves a name that's less connected to the beer.
Fair enough.
but Headley will do fine.
Yeah. I mean, it's a head, and it's like the head of a beer, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. And the Headley, the little mascot that they used, was actually designed by a local artist named Joe Burke, who was a freelance artist and did work for companies around town. And I met him when he was leaving town, and he gave me a bunch of his files and stuff. And that led me to the second kind of artifact that's my favorite, or that I like, is original artwork. Original artwork for advertising. Since I was an art teacher, one of the classes I took was on advertising art. So there were particular ways that they presented the work. The work is all original, so it's in pen and ink.
Oh, very cool.
Or ink washes, or charcoal washes, and then it's mounted on a piece of illustration board and then covered with acid-free tissue, so that they would show that around to when they were trying to sell their advertising or starting an advertising campaign. So I found some from Bethesda, showing some of the bottles from Bethesda,
cool.
some Foxhead ones that Joe did, and others. And Aeroshade Company is another one that I found some. So those are some of my favorites, but they're all at the museum now.
And these are like pre-photograph advertising at that point, where you're literally sketching out the person and sketching out the product and everything. Right.
Then they would later on they would photograph the artwork and touch it up that way and that. But it's that artist concept that's really
that's
really
very neat. Yeah.
I know you said you've given a lot to the museum. Is there anything that you still have in possession?
Yeah, so I am slowly giving things.
Sure.
I have about 8 shelves of Bethesda souvenir china. They produce so much every year. It seems like they have a whole new brand of china. So they're little souvenir pieces. Some of in like a shape of a seashell, or a little teapot, or a little cup, and some of them, the nicest ones I think, are a cobalt blue, and then they'll have a picture of Bethesda Spring glazed into the ceramic souvenir.
So is the intention of that to be like tourist items? So as people come into town, they'd like have that as their keepsake then?
Exactly. Yep.
Interesting.
Their keychain equivalents.
Yeah, exactly. And some of those, the Fountain Spring ones, for instance, will be on exhibit in the new Springs display. But I still have the Bethesda ones to give. I have stereo views that I've collected. I wrote a book about the stereo views of Waukesha.
And those are just like stereoscope, where you'd hold it up and kind of Viewmaster.
Exactly, a three-dimensional. You could see something in 3D. And so I have a lot of those that eventually I'll be giving to the museum. A few odd and end bottles and booklets. I like the little tourist booklets where you start seeing it being advertised as a summer at Waukesha or Spring City. Come visit the Spring City. So the museum does have a pretty extensive collection of those, and so mine are mostly duplicates, but
Sure.
Eventually those will be coming there too.
Do you have anything that you're like, I can't give this up?
No.
Okay.
Not yet. No. I've seen other people hang on to things too long, or I think might have been too long. You got to realize that you're the temporary caregiver of this, just like a house. You're the temporary, and you need to decide what you want done with it. And there's all different ways to handle it. And some people have a big auction and just let it be spread around. And I prefer to have it go there.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Good.
So how can residents contribute to preserving or documenting the city's history? And I think you kind of touched on that a little bit of how to kind of discover it. But I guess what would you recommend now for people who want to help document?
Oh, to document? Join
or
the
preserve,
yeah. Well, there's kind of two questions here. So I would say if they want to continue to help preserving or documenting the city's history, the Waukesha City has a landmarks commission, and supporting their work, I think, is important because when they're able to landmark sites and places around the city that are important to its history, and supporting anything they do, I think, is important. The Historical Society itself, joining that is helpful. We don't take a position on preservation issues when there's a fight or something like that, but we provide information. And that, I think, is important. We publish a quarterly magazine called Landmark, which I edit, and people write their stories, and we can publish those stories. We just had 2 women in today at the museum from, I think they were from the Kettle Moraine area, and they were doing research on the schools that they did. And we have files of old newspaper clippings, and they had the best time looking through those files and reminiscing about things that they did. So I think that those are 2 good ways to help. Oh, and the Landmarks Commission also, I think they've been having like a spring cleanup day, and they've been trying to organize, I believe, a new group to help spearhead that. So any efforts helping them, I think, would be good.
And if you want to, help by joining the Landmarks Commission, or if you want to find out more, all that information is available on the city website.
Yes.
So for residents interested in learning more about Waukesha's history, what resources do you recommend for them to get started?
Okay. Obviously, the museum. Just visiting there can be helpful, and you can see a lot and learn a lot. We do have a research library, a research facility there. Unfortunately, we're open on Wednesdays and Fridays during the day. We're working on eventually, hopefully getting a Saturday or an evening time to be open, but people make appointments just like the 2 women I noticed, and they come in and we can pull information for them. Another huge resource, I think that's maybe underused a little bit, is our own public library. There's a local history section towards the back of the library. They have some of the same resources that we have at the museum, such as city directories. So if people are interested in learning the history of their home and they can't make an appointment at the museum, they can go to the library and look in the city directories to see what's there. So they also have, I wrote a history column for the Waukesha Freeman for 10 years after I retired, and all my columns they've laminated, and there's a hanging file there, so you can read all of those columns, which sometimes answer a lot of people's questions.
Very cool.
Yeah.
One of the more interesting things that I think is helpful to learn about history is if you belong to like Ancestry.com or one of those sites, you can sometimes get a free membership to a newspaper search engine. And I believe if you have public library card for Waukesha that they still subscribe to BadgerLink, where you can get on free working at the library. And you can search old newspapers.
That's always fun doing that too.
Exactly.
Is just seeing what was validated as an important story of the time.
Right. And so sometimes I just go and read the old newspapers. So those are things that people can do to learn and help support the history and learn a little bit more about our history.
So it's wonderful. That's great to hear.
I think that's all we've got for questions. So thank you so much for joining us. Do you have anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
No, thank you for doing this. This is really a nice service to the city. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing all the stories. Your memory and just the knowledge you have is just so fascinating and interesting to hear and learn about.
I don't know. For some reason, there's one of those people that I can remember that kind of stuff, but I can't remember my students' names from my last year of teaching, but I can remember.
You got to choose what's staying in, what's getting pushed out.
I guess so. There's only so much room, right? So,
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much.
You so much.
Thank you, too.
And that's a wrap for another episode of Talkin' Waukesha. We hope you enjoyed diving into the heart of our city with us.
If you have a story to share or just want to say hello, reach out to us on social media at City of Waukesha on Facebook. We love hearing from our listeners.
Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review if you enjoyed the conversation. It really helps us spread the word.
As always, thanks for tuning in to Talkin' Waukesha, where every conversation springs to life.